not adequately responded. We have not adequately taken up this great weapon, this tool, this means. That's our fault. When I was in the Army, the Vietnam War was going on. I went through a lot of training, and we had very good training, non-commissioned officers. And they taught us about weapons. You know, here's an M16. It fires a .223 caliber bullet at a certain such and such a velocity, etc., etc. And here's a .30 caliber machine gun, and here's the 60 millimeter mortar, and an 81 millimeter mortar, and here's all the weapons. The basic weapon, the M16, you had to take it apart, blindfolded, in the dark. Take it apart and put it back together. You had to know your weapon. You had to take apart an AK-47, is that an AK-47 rifle? Yeah, the assault rifle, the Russian-made AK-47. You had to take that apart in the dark. Put that back together. All little pieces. Man, you got to know how that thing works to do it blindfolded. You got to know your weapons. Do you know your weapon? You got to know. Prayer, the Eucharist, the Rosary. You've got to know your weapons, and you got to. What good if a soldier went out on patrol in Afghanistan or back in Vietnam or in Korea or in Europe in World War II? If he were going out on patrol, man, and he leaves his gun in the barracks or in his tent, what kind of a goofy soldier would that be? Well, I mean, you know, come on. You've got to know your weapons, and you've got to know tactics. You've got to have tactics, and you've got to know the enemy's tactics if you're going to get anywhere. Weapons and tactics. And I'll tell you, the greatest weapon, nuclear power, is the Blessed Eucharist. It is the power to defeat evil. It is the power to change the world. It's the power to change the problems in the priesthood. I'm going to tell you something. This is an absolute fact. No priest, and I love them all. I don't care how bad and how far Father has fallen. He's my brother. I got to love him. Father would have never fallen that way if he had made a holy hour every day. If he had spent that hour in front of the Blessed Sacrament every day, if he had in fact accepted it as the source of his life, the center of his life, the summit of his life, he would have had power to resist temptation. Anybody can sin. Anybody can fall. That's one thing to sin. It's another thing to live in sin. There's a difference, a radical difference. Anyone can fall. But if you're living in closeness with Jesus, in intimacy with the Holy Eucharist, you're not going to fall permanently. You're not going to live in sin. Sin is not going to become your lifestyle. It's still something you've got to wrestle with, okay, but it's not going to defeat you. Nature abhors a vacuum. Priests can have a very difficult, lonely life, but then again, so can married people. You don't have it easy. I know some married people who are very lonely. That's entirely possible. You know, you can be with people all the time and still be empty inside. But priests don't have a family. Oh, it's an analogy. Yeah, the church is our family. You're our family. That's true. But you go home together. We go home alone. Every day. Day after day after day. You can talk to each other, husbands and wives. Who do we talk to? Now the devil has so succeeded in alienating us and dividing us, we don't have anybody to talk to. I've come at times to dread gatherings of priests because they're all bickering and fighting. It's a terrible experience. Now there are exceptions. There are some very beautiful experiences with good priests who come together, brothers, and support each other. That's wonderful. But I'm going to tell you something. The morale in the priesthood, and I've seen it all over the country. I've preached in 49 of the 50 states. all the Canadian provinces except one, several other foreign countries, I have seen a broad cross-section of the church and the priesthood. And I can tell you, morale has never been lower. Our brothers are assailed from without and from within. The battle rages. You must pray for your priest. You must help your priest. The priest who has centeredness on the Holy Eucharist, he will never go too far astray. Even if he slips up a little here and there, he'll always come back because he'll have his balance, the center of his life. The loneliness won't overpower him because when he goes home, he can go home to Jesus in the tabernacle. And Jesus will comfort him. He'll speak to his heart, enlighten his mind, and strengthen his will. The priest will be fed by his intimacy with Jesus in the Holy Eucharist. And if the priest is thus fed, he will go forth and he will feed you. You need us, and we need you. So together, let's pray for each other. Let's pray for each other, and together we'll go toward home, our heavenly home. And one day, we'll be in heaven together. We'll hear the beautiful words, "Well done, my good and faithful servant. Enter into the joy of your master's house." God bless you.